Well, going to take the spindles out of the kiln. So the spindles were whittled back a while ago. I like to, of course, I whittle them green and leave them in an octagonal shape, and then I just lay them around the shop to lose some of their excess moisture. I put them in the kiln. So I'm going to get them out. They've been in here 2 or 3 days. So there they are, and now I'll block that. Now I'll take them out to the shaving horse and start rounding them. Okay, so between the spindles being rived and me following the straight wood fibers, which they're not exactly straight when you do that, and then sometimes when they dry, they'll pull a little bit to one side or another. They're a little crooked, but most of them, and that's the way they always are, but most of them are well within possibilities of making good spindles out of them. But every once in a while, one of them comes out like that. Now, Dave Sawyer, after he whittles them green, he puts them all in a nice rack for them to dry, and they all dry real nice and straight. And I've been meaning to build a rack for about 30 years and never have. But that's a little bit too much. I can use ones with curves in it, and you can also straighten it out with a heat gun, and I'll probably show you some of that later with a paint stripper gun. I can make that thing straight, but I can whittle a spindle faster, and I can do that, and so I'd just rather whittle a new spindle. So I'll cut that one off, maybe make it a short spindle or something. So anyway, put those up there. I picked out the nicest, straightest ones, so make it easy for me to show you what we're doing. So let me put my glasses on so I can see what's going on here. So if you watch me whittle this thing, you know that I left it in octagonal. Now, theoretically, if it was a perfect octagonal, so what I'm trying to do is leave reference points. That's why I took it to a square, then octagonal, and all that. And your spindles turn out more consistent shape and size. But if I had a perfect octagonal, then if you can see the lines I made right in the center of the flats, then theoretically all I would have to do would be knock off that corner with the spoke shave between those 2 flats, and I would have a nice round spindle. But in real practice, it's a little bit more than that, but the closest you get, the closer you get to a true octagonal, then the closer it is to being able to do that. So the first thing I'm going to do is size the tenon going down into the seat, and I'm going to true up that octagonal just a little bit because it shrunk, because it shrinks more in one plane than it shrinks in the other, twice as much. So now I'm just going to knock off the corners. And you can do this with a spoke shave, but sometimes I get a little slight taper with the spoke shave. I just feel that the draw knife, you've got a lot more control with the draw knife. Let's see how close I am to round there. Now you can whittle it all the way down to the 1/2 inch hole and have you test it and keep going like that. But and I did that for years and years, and then Alia made me one of these little cutters right here, and now I can I get it real close. You know, you get it like a heavy half, and then I can run it right through that cutter, and that's it. Now I've got exact 1/2 inch there. Actually, I leave it just a tad bit heavy, and I'll show you why. So now I want this transition to disappear. I like my swells to be real subtle. I don't want them to be real pronounced. So I'll concentrate just a tad bit. Right on that spot. Being careful to stay off the tenon. And always trying to keep my reference points so I don't get lost in there. So I always know where I need to be cutting. Okay, that looks nice. That's what That's what I like, just a slight swell right there. Like I said, I left this half a little bit large, and that's so I can take it. I can take a much finer set spoke shave, and actually let me show you what I do. So before I final size that tenon, get us a mark here. So I got a 1-inch hole over here drilled in the side of the shaving horse, and I can just rotate it right like that. You couldn't see that, but I can rotate it with the pencil there and get me a nice 1-inch mark on that. Now, so like I said, when I ran it through the cutter, I've got that cutter set just a little bit heavy. Sometimes that cutter will, it cuts it kind of raw right up in here because it's cutting it cross grain. So I like to be able to take a spoke shave that is set really fine, and all I'm doing is taking out that pencil mark. So I'm keeping my tenon round as it came out of the cutter, but I'll end up with nice spoke shave marks coming all the way down the spindle and going right into the mortise in the seat. So that ought to fit in that hole, and now I'll put the mark back on it. So now I've got a depth mark for where it's going to go into the seat. Now I'm going to size the rest of the spindle. So this spoke shave's set a little heavy, and you know, I hadn't said anything about wooden bodied spoke shaves. I brought this one out. I have a couple of them. They're nice to put your hands on and feel, but they're and you can use them as general purpose spoke shaves. They work just fine, but they work better as short grain, as end grain, because they're low angle as opposed to this one. But you can use both of them interchangeably. As you saw when I carved the seat, I shaved the end grain with one of these spoke shaves right here instead of this one, and it's because it's what I had in my hand, and I went ahead and used it. So you know, it's fine if you like the way these things feel and you cut with them. It's fine. They're a little bit less forgiving if there's an issue out here at all, because they are low angle. That would be the only downside to using that. So trying to be real methodical about how I turn it. And I can feel around it to see if I've left any corners anywhere. And I've got a 3/8 hole right there, and you can see maybe a tad bit too tight for my use, but I'll get it with that fine spoke shave. Now I can go all the way down to here, a little long, hit me in the gut there. Now the way you keep from having these marks, you might have done a spindle and seen these little marks running across it from the spoke shave. And what that comes from is when you enter the spoke shave, if you drop it down right like that, you'll get one of those little marks. So I bring it in like landing a plane. I bring it in on its toe, and as it's moving then, I engage it. Now the bad part about this is it wears out the toe of your spoke shave, and I'm always having to flatten that. But you don't get those little marks in there. You can also set one side of the blade deeper than the other side, so have nothing cutting here, and you can set it down and slide it into the cut. That's probably a better way to do it, but that's not the way I got used to. I got used to bringing it in on its toe, and I couldn't change now if I tried. So getting rid of that transition. Now this spoke shave cutting nice and clean on this spindle goes all the way back to riving out that stock and following it with the draw knife on that very first side, or the first two sides, following those long wood fibers just perfect. Because now I know I can cut with reckless abandon. I know that it's just going to cut perfect with me. That does two things, or three things actually. It gives me a better looking spindle. It's faster to do it, and it's a lot more fun. Okay, so let's look here. We're looking good a little bit right up in here. So now if this was going into like a fan back or a continuous arm, a loop back, something that doesn't have an arm rail coming through it, the spindle would be finished now. Well, I'd go over it with this fine spoke shade. But the comb back passes through an arm rail right here, and on mine the bottom of the arm rail is at 10 inches, and now that's including the 1-inch tenon there. So I don't like a sloppy hole there where it passes through, so I taper that hole, and I've got a block here with the taper in it. If I can figure out where the bottom is, there it goes, it says bottom, that must be the bottom. And as you can see, right there's the line I need to go to, and this is the hole it's going to be fit to with that taper on it. Now I don't have to hit that exactly, because when I'm fitting the spindle in the hole, I can taper it a little more or a little less, but I want to get close to that. So I see, I mean, you can put it in there and put you a little mark right up there, and you can see where you need to cut if you want to do that. Now I'll take the finer spoke shade, and now I'm going to start right up here, because a little bit needed to be taken off this 3/8 tenon up here, and this gives me a chance to get a little bit slicker spoke shade cut on it with this one that's a little finer tuned. Now as you can probably guess from what I'm saying, these are all finished, these are my finished cuts right here. So I'm going to end up with really minute facets on this spindle. I don't want large ones, but nice small ones that you almost have to feel the spindle to see that they're there, are nice. Now let's see what we got. A little bit more time consuming than say doing spindles for a continuous arm, but I really want a nice fit in that arm rail. And then it just comes down and just thunks right on top of those tapers. It's nice. So you see I'm really tight up here, and I lack about, ½ inch right there. So I can just go ahead and put me a mark there. And now see, I lack just a smidgen bit, and let's see if I got any high corners or anything, and it doesn't look like it. Come out of there. So I'm just going to take one light pass, and that enables me to get a nice clean cut all the way back here on this bulb. Of course, the center of the bulb is as far back as I can go, and I'll cut in this direction from the center and that direction back because it's downhill. Okay, so I believe I might have it. Let's see, I think I left a little dot out there. So so I don't have to measure it again. And we're going to finish up just in time. You can hear the train coming. There you go. Look at that. All right. Just right. So and I'll do that to all the spindles. Of course, the short spindles just go up into the arm rail. They aren't tapered. That's just a straight 3/8 hole. So this hole is going to be 7/16 in the arm rail, and then it's tapered with a. I'll show you. It's tapered with a rat tail file. But you'll see that when we start assembling. 1/2 inch tenon down here, and a 3/8 tenon right up here.